Do 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 do. And now is gonna check my connection. Checking my connection. Oh. Aha! Welcome, friends. It's me, Seanzy, and I'm here ready to teach you guys some fun drawing stuff. I hope everyone's having a good day. It is 7 p.m. on the nose, and I'm here in my apartment with some new toys. I'm actually really excited about today. Got a lot to go over, actually, as a matter of fact. What we're going to do is we're going to go over and I'm going to teach you guys how to draw perspective. This week, we're going to learn about one-point perspective, which is basically where we have an object in space. Hey, what's up, guys? Hey, what's going on? Love the hearts. Hey, the hearts. Where this week we're going to cover one-point perspective. What up, homie? And we're going to talk about the eye and the other tools and the things that we have. I got a couple of announcements. First of all, I'm working on putting together a website which will correspond and bring together some of the different channels that I've been participating on, so the Instagram and the YouTube and things like that. I'll also have some supply lists so that if I use a specific type of material or plan to use a specific material within class, it's a little bit easier to anticipate. At the end of the day, my objective for this class and for all my lessons is for, first of all, my mission is to spread joy and spread the joy through my personal love of art. But second of all, I want to make sure that art is accessible. So I don't want to get into crazy complicated or expensive tools or things that, are luxurious items. For my first 5 or 6 classes, I taught with just a regular pencil and, a sketchbook, which could be replaced with printer paper. I mean, it doesn't necessarily matter. But as we move farther along and deeper into this thing, I want to make sure that I am providing some more additional outlets and resources as well. So I'm excited about the website. I did go through Squarespace. It seems a little bit more expensive, but at the same point, it's very easy to manipulate and make edits on the fly. So I do like that. Second, I am actively raising funds right now for Texas schools hotspots. I don't have information in this video right now, but I do have a link. You have to copy and paste it into your URL to my GoFundMe. Basically, we're looking at about 10% of students, maybe more, maybe less, do not have access to the internet right now. This thing that we are on together, they can't go to school. And what we know is that long-term absenteeism leads to certainly bad effects over the rest of someone's life. So we want to make sure that, as we're sharing the joy of art, that we're also sharing the joy of education. I know that in my life, my own personal education career, that I have, really a lot to be thankful for. So I want to make sure that we're giving that into the next generation, because one day they're going to be in charge. And last shout out, this is, I'm not endorsing or being endorsed by them, but this is the shirt that I bought that's in my story from Texas Rich. It's a Don't Mess with Tejas. It's a baseball tee. I love it. But a special shout out to them, because what I love is that the package that I got was a compostable package. So nerd alert, I know. But I love the fact that I can, participate in e-commerce, buy things, and the packaging that I receive ultimately isn't going to wind up in a landfill for 800 years. So that when anthropologists dig up our compost piles, they're garbage piles or whatever, they're like, oh yeah, looks like this guy got something from Amazon. Gross, and it's stinky. So, all right. Enough announcements for that. Let's get into drawing together. I'm so glad you're with me today. Oh, my head is really big. We're getting back into the forced perspective class from last week, if you were here. Okay, so I like to start the class off with the tools for success. Whoa, hey, Freudian slip, right? Tools for success section. Essentially, I've got some new tools with me today. First, I've got what's called a kneaded eraser. This thing is a lot of fun, or these things are a lot of fun. It's a type of eraser that you can basically stretch out to separate different charcoal molecules. It's kind of like artist's Play-Doh, because you can like get in here and like shape it and like, you know, oh look, check it out. It's a pigeon. Okay. So nonetheless, what I love about this type of eraser is it's very customizable. You know, as we get more and more into our art, notice I can pinch this thing, I can shape it, and I can get it into like a nice little refined point. Or if I want, I can use it for a nice big fat, you know, edge, so I can get a nice, like thick amount of erasing. And then once I've got enough buildup, I can stretch it out, and I've got a nice clean side all over again. So kneaded erasers are great. They do have a finite life. You know, it's not like you can just knead these things out forever. But if you're like stuck somewhere and you need to like think a little bit, this is a nice little fun activity for your hands. Second set of tools that I've got new for this class, I went ahead, I noticed that from some of my other videos, the hot white page was not picking up on some of the materials, and I don't think that my pencil was picking up very well either. So I went ahead and I made a huge capital investment, about $4, into some charcoal pencils. Now, I haven't worked with these a lot. I've worked with vine charcoal a lot and ordinary pencils, of course. So I'm not exactly sure how these are going to work. So we're going to learn how these do together, basically. So thanks for joining me on that. I've got a 4B, which is soft. I've got a 6B, which is softer and darker. I've got a, oh, it looks like a 2B. So this is going to be closer to an ordinary like pencil hardness. And then I've got here just a charcoal white. I don't plan on using the charcoal white today, but I will just kind of illustrate the fact that, you know, what this does, you know, when we get into doing charcoal drawing in a future session, which I've already kind of thought about, that will allow us to add hot, like white spots, because sometimes we use toned paper, or we specifically tone the paper to create a gray field to work onto. So that's the idea. And then the last thing, and I'm actually very excited about this, I tend to like to work big, and working on that little sketchbook was fine, but now I've got a lot more surface area here. This is an 18 by 24 newsprint. It's the same type of paper as what you would find in the newspaper. That's why it's called newsprint. And I like it because, especially for sketching, warming up, you know, you can use newsprint for, you know, really being super loose. And since it's not, you know, it's not the nicest quality paper, you don't have to worry about like maintaining its integrity as you put your own art down into the paper. So I got some newsprint, and we're going to use the newsprint, the additional size, you know, for me to work bigger, hopefully get a little bit more detail, but also to have bigger details so that you're better able to see it. I got, oh, what's up? I got Ellen in here. I got Courtney in here, my fellow jiu-jitsu coach. And then I got, look at that. That is a lovely charcoal drawing on a drawing pad of paper. So I'm going over the paper part first to contrast a few things. So I want to first call out and notice the whiteness of the drawing page versus the more neutral or middle gray tone of the newsprint. So newsprint is already toned, which if I were to take this white pencil, whoops, and that's probably just broke my charcoal pencils. You got to be watching, you know, got to be careful about that. Oh well, it's for fun anyway. But notice if I take this white, you can see the white. I hope you can see the white. You probably can't see the white. Oh well, I can see the white on the toned paper. So it's super nice, you know, as I get into there and work deeper on. But this is going to be a type of paper that we'll work on later on. Like I said, I'll have this kind of information on my website, as well as like where to find that type of paper, different sizes. You don't have to go full 18 by 24. There's different sizes. 11 by 17 was one that I saw and remember. And there's other ones, but I don't remember them so well because I just generally look at them online and say, big enough. I'm cool with that. Okay, so a couple more tools for success. I've got my, well, I thought I had my pencil sharpener. I moved it somewhere. Doesn't matter. I've got my catcher for my shavings so that when I do shave my pencils, I'll be able to catch the pencil shavings and not have to worry about it going all over my floor so that I don't have to sweep or mop. I've got a big boy here. This is an 18-inch ruler. It doesn't have to be 18 inches, you know, but it's going to come in handy today because our objective is to draw perspective. So I'm going to use this tool almost exclusively throughout today's class. So if you've got a straight edge of any kind, you can use, you know, this is a more of an engineering ruler. That's the word that I'm looking for. Engineering ruler there. Or if you've got like a postcard, you know, just anything that's going to have a nice, predictable straight edge. I don't have to get into measurements today. That's just not really important to today's lesson. So, okay, I've got that. I've got my charcoal. Which one did I get? I got a 6B. Oh, and then here's a bonus. In the time of COVID, I'm sure y'all have plenty of these. I keep a couple of these around depending on the type of medium that I'm using. This is just a regular old latex glove. I like to have it just because, you know, sometimes when you work with these dry media, and a lot of your drawing medium is going to be called dry medium. It's called dry media because, well, it's dry. And you don't have to wet it or it doesn't come wet and wait for it to dry. So dry media is pencils, charcoals, pastels. Those are examples. Wet medias are like watercolor, oil paints, acrylic paints, things like that. So, you know, you can already see this is not a glove that I would personally wear to the grocery store. I think that would be a little rude. But people are also generally pretty rude at the grocery store. Like, you know, I went earlier today and there were folks who were not wearing their fabric safety masks. And it was like, oh man, talk about like, do we get to publicly shame these people? Do we get to go like, yo, bro, like, well, what are you doing? Like, you're the reason why we're in like week 6 of quarantine versus like we would be done already if everybody had been a good citizen and just like chilled the F out. So, all right. So I've got my glove, I got my pencil, or not my pencil, that's a ruler. Got my ruler, and I got my pencil. So now let's get into the lesson. That ate up a lot of time. So excuse me, and thank you for continuing to watch. All right, so today we're going to talk about perspective and how perspective works. So earlier in one of my other videos, I talked about how the eye sees and what it focuses on. So the eye, we focus specifically at one point. Generally when our eyes work, I mean, they focus on one point. If we wear glasses, I wear glasses, it's to get those eyes to focus where we can get that same center point so that we can see more clearly. We have 2 different focuses, well then we wind up with blurry vision, blurrier vision, blurriest vision, you know, so on and so forth. So that's one thing. So anytime we're going to do perspective, you know, as I mentioned before, all representative art relies on a concept that's called figure and ground. So first of all, though, we need to have the ground. So what I'm going to do is just arbitrarily, doesn't matter, on your page, you can go just about anywhere you want, but I'm going to just pick a point. I'm going to draw a horizon line. Oh, look at that. Oh, that feels like charcoal, and it looks like charcoal. Oh, yay. Oh, guys, all right, so nerd alert, I'm super excited that we can get some of that. But check this out, dry media. See how I'm able to blur this out a little bit? Yeah, you can see that smudge. If I didn't have these gloves on, that's getting on my hands. It's getting on my hands, it's getting on my face, getting in my hair, getting in my nostrils. I want to, probably just did, oh well, okay. I want to make sure that I can keep my hands clean, especially if I'm working on a fine drawing. You know, we'll get into like artist sticks and things like that to add tension, but to keep from having to rest the butt of our hand onto the page, but so on and so forth. Okay, so I've got a horizon point, and what we're going to talk about is 1 point perspective. So it doesn't really matter. You know, if I'm actually looking into space, I can pick where I'm looking. So in this example, I'm going to pick the near third to me. So I'm just going to go ahead and reiterate this little spot here so that you can see it on the line. All right, and everything that I do, every future mark is going to be informed by this specific point. In a way, I'm radiating out from this point. So now let me draw. I wouldn't necessarily draw these if I was doing a fine drawing, but in the example of teaching, I'm going to use this resource to demonstrate what I mean by that. Now, there we go. Hope everyone's having a good day. It was a really pretty day today here in Central Texas. I did a little sunbathing on my patio. It was, you know, it's about 60 degrees, you know, something like that Fahrenheit. And, yeah, I got a canned water, you know, a nice, nice bubbly. Currently sipping on a cherry flavor that I like from bubbly. I'll just give that a little sip to wet the palate. But notice that my lines are all coming from this central position. So I'm going to start to build out the ground so that you can see what I mean by this. Okay. And it doesn't matter. Notice I'm not like super trying to be specific or perfect, but I want to maintain the consistency of all my lines terminating to that point. Now already it's starting to look like Ellen, thanks for coming by. Already it looks like I'm looking into the distance. Like if I could imagine train tracks, that's kind of what it would look like. Oh yeah, cheers, yeah. Cheers to you. Okay. So I got it. All right, I got it. A little slow on the uptake here. All right, so there's that. I'm going to start drawing these lines a little progressively farther away from each other, if I can manage that idea. Actually, you know what? I'm going to try to keep them the same distance, just so that we can see how the shapes change as they go farther and farther away into space. My charcoal's already getting dull. And I don't have my tool for success, so shame on me. That's all right. I'm sure you guys won't mind. I did watch one of those videos, like how to get more YouTube subscribers, just because I have a lot of fun with this. And I want to share it with more people. So, you know, and it's just good to kind of be working on your skills. I mean, if I can share art with people and, you know, they can make better art, then we'll live in a prettier world. And, you know, beauty has value. People go to Europe people used to go to Europe every day because you can see some of the world's most beautiful architecture there. Same goes for parts of India, parts of Africa, parts of Asia. There we go. So already you can see that I'm able to create a distance of going back into space. And a lot of that's just because I've got these lines all agreeing on what the termination point is, which is that point there. So I'm going to switch it up, go to a darker pencil. That's my 6B. I'm going to wait on that one. And I'm going to go to my 4B. Yeah, and these bad boys, they are soft. Okay, so that's my ground. Now I'm going to switch it up a little bit. In space, I'm just going to space, the final frontier. Now it does help if you've got one of these rulers here to keep your shapes consistent. But I don't really care. If you want to do a lumpy square, do a lumpy square. Doesn't matter. This is art, man. Art is all about self-expression. There we go. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about what we're looking at here. So right here, I've got a horizon line. The horizon, Okay, good. I hope everyone's back. I got it canceled due to poor connection, which makes me mad at AT&T, but that's all right. Maybe it's my own fault. Okay, so the horizon line is where I've got my termination point where all my dots are focused. So everything's going that way. This specific block up here, well, what the horizon line is every time I look out, so let's say I'm standing anywhere on the planet. When I look out, horizon line is always at my eye level. I don't care where you look, I don't care what you're doing, you will see the curve of the earth, and you know what? I will fight you if you're a flat earther, but you will see the curve of the earth. It may be very subtle, but that's going to be the horizon. It's always at the eye line. If anything is underneath the horizon line, then it's going to look like it's underneath you. If anything is above the horizon line, well, then it's going to look like it's above you. And so that's why I started with this shape, this square up here, and now I'm going to give it some dimension. I'm also going to draw a square down here. To show you what I mean to differentiate the two sites. There we go. Well, I could use a shorter ruler. I'm having fun. I hope you guys are having fun. Is anybody drinking anything cold tonight? If you are, leave a comment. I want to know what you're drinking. I am keeping it PG-13 though myself. I'd hate to slur my words if there's like a young one here, trying to learn how to draw, and I'm like, yeah, so what you got to do? You just take the line, you just do, and you make that. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna stack. I changed my mind. So this is the best part about art. You can change your mind. Boop. Now I got a taller block. Here like that. And now I've got a taller block. Okay, cool. All right, so rectangle, square. The square appears to basically be above me, like it's floating in space. Wine time. Hey, Courtney, nothing for you to drink. That's all right. That's all right. Just a cup of water. Water it. It's fine. You got to stay lean so that when I fight you next time, you're fit. All right. Okay. So above and below. So let's watch what happens with the lines. And actually, you know what? I'm going to do one over here. Well, yeah, I'm going to do one down here. Yes. I'm going to do a big one. So there's a bit of what's called trompe-l'oeil happening. Trompe-l'oeil is an art term which is French for fooling the eye. And anytime we start to play with perspective, we start getting into trompe-l'oeil. because at the end of the day, this is a flat surface, and I'm able to render roundness and dimension on a flat surface, which is giving the impression that it is round. Let's see. Time out. I got to find my pencil sharpener. And if I can't find a pencil sharpener, well, then I'll start to cry. And I have an ugly cry, so you guys will just have to deal with it. And, okay, shame on me. All right, shame on me. Maybe I can switch it up and go with the pencil. I'll just switch it up and go with the pencil today. Okay, now, I've got some confusion going on, so let me just go ahead and take my new kneaded eraser toy and use that to pick up some of this charcoal. That's the nice part about the kneaded eraser. As I can get in here, I can start to erase. Now, it's not going to go away. You know, the thing about newsprint is it is not the most forgiving of mediums. It's really just designed for immediate sketching. But I want you to be able to, I want to have some clarity in the shapes that I'm doing so that as you're looking at it, it's not too entirely confusing. Okay. So near square, medium square, high square. Okay, cool. I'm going to switch it up just for fun. We'll go with the pencil. All right. So now let's watch what happens with the lines as we go near to far, you know, up or below. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect these 2 points. Because like I said, this termination point or this focus point is going to inform all the lines that I make as I continue to create the shapes on here. Does that read as well? That does not read well at all. Well, hashtag embarrassing. All right, well, and it's even more embarrassing because I just said hashtag, what is this, 2018? Oh, if only it was 2018. All right, we'll just bear through it. Okay, so I'm here. And now I'm here. Oops. So if you do get a new one of these 18-inch rulers, it has cork backing, which makes it stickier on the page. This thing has, I've had this thing since freshman year. And as you can see, I've worn this cork out a little bit. You know, just doing all kinds of fun things to it. Okay, so there we go. And all right, there we go. Oh, wiggly. There we go. And now I'm going to finish the dimension. And have a solid object. So now it looks like I got a cube going back into space. It's kind of a long cube, but it looks like a cube, and that's kind of fun. That's what I wanted it to look like. Now, but notice that all the lines coming from the object are going down toward the focus point. At this point, make this not as wide of a box. Now another kind of signature to one-point perspective that I just want to comment on while I'm doing this part is that one-point perspective, basically all the horizon lines are going to agree on the shapes. Because if we had termination going other ways, well, then we're now in two-point perspective. And so we have to have some level of consistency in the image. Otherwise, we break the illusion and then we fail at trompe l'oeil because, you know, art or this type of art, representative art, is really meant to fool the eye into recreating reality. Now, if you want to do your own thing and have it, bend the rules, that's cool. Bend the rules all you want. But just like in music or writing or dance or theater or anything else like that, your success at breaking the rules are going to be much better if you understand the rules first. So kind of, object lesson here. All right, so notice, all right, so the object that's above, the lines come down. The object that's below, the lines come up. What's going to happen to the object that's both above and below the horizon line? Oh, let me get that out of the way. Well, a little bit of A and a little bit of B. So at this point, and because it's pretty sheer, it's going to be maybe more difficult to read. That's okay. Believe me, I've got an answer to this. Oops. Ugh. Oh, come on. There we go. Yeah. How about that? So, other secret, especially for doing shapes like this, do that back wall. What's up, David? Do that back wall of the object as well, because if you just, allow it to terminate, it's going to look like it's going all the way to that termination line. So above, it does this, below it does that, and then when it's kind of both, it does that. Now, let's go far away this time. I'm going to draw an object that's behind this square so that now I can start to stagger objects and create dimensionality. And that's just, so for this, if I'm going to go behind this, I'm not going to use a solid line. But what I can do is I can just give myself guidance lines, which are going to be easier to work with. And it's just a little hash, no big deal. It's the 60s. What's a little hash? I'm kidding. It's not the 60s. Okay, there we go. Be a lot cooler if it was. Okay. Hopefully you guys can see what I'm doing. Change the angle a bit. Okay. Boop. Okay. Yes. There we go. Okay. So now I've got an object that's both behind one object. And notice a lot of that is just because I didn't actually draw the lines. So the eye will actually see and pick that up and be like, oh, okay, well, that's obviously behind the other thing. So nothing to worry about. And then what I'll do is connect that. And now here's my challenge. I can't show this part because it's behind this box. So what do I do? Well, again, the eye's pretty sophisticated. So to this thing, all I've got to do is, depending on what I'm trying to do, and if I'm rendering a rectangular prism like I am, I really just have to make sure that these two lines agree, which means that they're parallel to each other. And there you have it. Now I've been able to draw what looks like, the beginning of a cityscape, really. I can essentially put an object at any point and terminate it at just about any point. Okay, so that's with squares. Cool. So squares are super easy because they're just straight angles. What happens if I use a circle? Well, let's get into that. This is an artifact from a bygone era that I found magically somehow in my hoarding self. It's a CD or DVD-R. I don't know how often you get to see these. Yeah, I know, right? Like, talk about like, an artifact from a bygone era. I don't even know what's on this thing. I'm afraid to turn it on. It might be like a ghost is going to come out of my PlayStation, which is my DVD Blu-ray player. So a ghost might come out of this thing and, like, I don't know, put a hex on me. So how do I do a circle in space? Well, this time I'm going to do a circle here. And so I'm just going to trace the periphery. And I think that for me, I'm going to tell myself, I used to have a bad attitude about using tools like this. You can use compasses and things as well. I used to have a bad attitude about using compasses because I was like, man, I'm a good artist. I don't have to, I can freehand it. Well, sure. Okay, great. Like, maybe you can, but, using a circle like that, using a template like that, gosh, that was so easy. That was so easy for me to do that. And it really didn't cost me anything to do that. Okay, so again, what do? Make sure that my points agree. And then I go to the farthest point that I can. So here I was going to the corner. Here now I'm aligning my straight edge to the object, and I'm going to the farthest point out that I can, if I'm going to assume that this thing is perfectly cylindrical. And I might even want to go a little bit farther to make room for the shape. And what I'm going to do is create what's called a tangent line, which is where the lines intersect. And if you remember this from math or geometry, if you don't, that's cool too. But there is math in art. And if we got into like some of the Renaissance masters where they really started to figure out ratios, like golden ratios, and how to render these things, we really wind up with some beautiful art that we've kind of gotten away from. I mean, postmodernism has its place, but a lot of postmodernism is not attractive. It's more about the concept of the art making process or the relic of the artists themselves as an artifact more than anything. I think about, oh gosh, what's his name? Koons? Not Koons. Koons. Jeff Koons. I think about Jeff Koons and his artist as celebrity movement in the 80s. So this is fun. So a little art history here. I think about Jeff Koons, and he was really kind of the first Kardashian in a lot of ways. If you want some homework, you can look up Jeff, Koonz. He's really the first person who made himself famous for being famous. And he's an artist. He's a living artist. We still have him today. He's still with us. And he's done some pretty cool things, like Michael Jackson piece, or that doesn't work. Michael Jackson, or his stuffed animals, his balloon animal things, like very fascinating works of art. Okay, so I failed here because I didn't use a smaller circle. So maybe I've got a smaller circle around here. Maybe I don't. Oh, maybe I do. Hey, how about that? Okay. When in doubt, empty your pencil cup out. Here's my fun little Mario Kart pencil thing. I'm just going to, yeah, those agree. Those shapes agree a lot better. So what I've just done, which I'm actually really happy about, is I failed as an artist. And you got to see it live. Failure is part of the art making process. And sometimes in your own art, when you're trying to do something, maybe you won't be successful at it. And it's a great object lesson because sometimes it can be very frustrating because you're not getting what you want from the art. But that's okay, because oftentimes if you're willing to embrace it and then work with it, you're able to get some new things coming out. What's up, Paige? You're able to get some new things coming from the failure simply because you were able to adapt and overcome that limitation. So allow yourself to fail in art, because sometimes, that happens, and that's just part of the wonderful process. Okay, so I've done some pretty cool things by doing the positives of the shapes. I'm also going to just show you real quick how to do like cones in space. So for me, the way that I like to draw a cone is I like to start with a horizon line first. So I'm going to just throw a horizon line here like that. Then I'm going to find the center, and I'm going to align the center with my horizon line. And then I'll make basically an X here. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and continue this idea. I'm going to make a box. I'm going to actually shorten that. I'm going to shorten that a teens. Now, drawing circles in this type of technique, flat circles like this, is a lot more difficult. So I won't blame you if it doesn't look right away. This is a lot easier circle to draw because it's flat and it's just like you're looking right at it. So it's just square on. But in space, it's going to look a little bit different. So what I've done here is I've drawn a square which would represent the overall, like, imagine I'm playing a game. And my game is Animal Crossing because I so happen to be playing Animal Crossing on the Switch because it's quarantine and there's nothing else to do. Well, maybe except for teach drawing classes, right? So there's rules in that in that game where everything is a set or agreed upon tile, and some objects fit nicely into that, and some objects don't. Some objects take up 1.5. Some objects take up 2 or 4 or something like that. Well, I'm going to basically create my square for this thing to be on. That's the most space that it's going to take up. That's my additive process. Now what I'm going to do is get into my reductive process by taking away part of that. So I'm going to start, and I'm just going real light. I'm going to start by, and I'm sure like if someone's a mathematician, you'll be able to give me better information on how to do this, but that's fine. But essentially, I'm trying to round out and eat up this space. I'm actually drawing into the negative so I get that round. And then I'll do the same thing. Notice I'm going real slow here. I'm not in a rush, and I'm not trying to be in a rush. I'm just trying to go real slow so I can get this shape to come around these curves and look somewhat like a circle. And maybe I did it. Probably, hopefully, okay. So see that? I was able to draw the square first, and then I took out what I needed from that space. What's up, Kara? Took out from that space to create the base of the object. And now the base of the object also agrees with the horizon line, so that when I finally do render this cone or cylinder, doesn't matter, but in this case, I don't feel like I want to render a cylinder. I'm just going to do a cone, but cylinder is going to follow the same rules. Actually, you know what? Oh, I can't not do it. I have to do it now. So here's what a cone would be. A cone is just a triangle, right? I went to the farthest point, and now I've got a cone in space. So I started from my center point where these two shapes, where these two lines intersected, and I went straight up to define the height of my cone. Thank you, Don. Went straight up to define the height of my cone, and then out to the edge to now give my cone body. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna just try to bang out. I got 15 more minutes before this Instagram stream kills because it only lasts about an hour. So I'm gonna put this down here. I'm gonna go a little harder on it because I'm just gonna do that. Okay, starting to put my box down. Starting to put my box down. Get those points aligned. Get those points aligned. Now I'm going to go ahead and bring my object up to whatever height that I want. This time I'm going to make a tall cylinder. And now a cylinder, guess what? Is a rectangle with a round body. Sure enough. All right, let's do it. Rock and roll, baby. Okay. I'm just going to let y'all know this is a lot like pimping. This is not easy right here, okay? That joke was free. The rest of them, I'm going to start a Patreon, and then that way you can support my bad humor and go from there. So same idea where I try to knock this circle out into the space by connecting the points. Not really going to worry about that in there because it's going to be invisible anyway. Oops. And now what I'm doing is I'm redefining the edge of the cylinder to go to that circle, to the edge of where that circle was that's on top. And it's not really a circle, it becomes a new abstract shape. Here like that. Okay, cool. I'm cool with that. I can live with that. I'm going to take, what's up, Chase? I'm going to take my kneaded eraser, which I love because this thing is nice and squishy. Squishy delicious. I'm just going to take that off so it's not as confusing. Oh, yeah. Knocking this out. Sometimes you could scrub. I would say be careful with scrubbing too much if you scrub with your eraser like this, because sometimes you can scrub what you want to keep and then you got to do it again. And there's something funny about like doing something really well the first time. It doesn't always read well the second time. And then you're like mad at yourself because you're like, well, ding dang, if only I hadn't done that. And yeah, there we go. Cool. Yep. All right. So I've done a lot of different shapes here. Pretty easy. And then again, you know, see that eraser that's pretty dirty like that? Boop. Stretch it out. Stretch it out. Nice clean eraser. I love it. Oh, I love it when things like that just fall into my lap. Okay, so now we'll do a little bit of freestyling to take us out. If anybody has any questions, I've got comment boxes on the Instagram live stream and the YouTube live stream. Please feel free to ask questions if I went over a topic too fast. If you want to ask a question about a topic, that is related, or maybe another topic that I've covered in today's class, let me know. I'm going to do some freestyling just to have fun, right? Just to have fun, because I can. Because once you start to get this stuff down, well, then you can start to do all kinds of cool stuff. So I'm going to build the city of the future now. Cool. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then all I've got to do is make these things agree. So if I want this to look like it's the same, yeah, there you go. I want to make sure that things like the widths are the same. So like the width here and the width here are the same. And then that way this looks like it's one object. Disregard the eraser piece there. If I want to take things off, like I said, this is newsprint, so it's not going to erase all the way, but it's sketching. So I'm able to do things with this that I wouldn't be able to do. And like I said, once you get this down, you can just start inventing and going crazy. While I was doing my sunbathing earlier today, and it is important, I hope that while you are social distancing, you actually are effectively social distancing out there, but that you're also, getting nourishment. I mean, our bodies need sunlight. We're designed to need sunlight. We have to have it. It keeps us, some semblance of sanity. But it helps our brains produce serotonin, which is a happiness formula. So I certainly, with my mission to spread joy with doing this work, I also want to just make sure that you're taking care of yourself. So spreading joy kind of helps with that too. So we got that. You know what? I'm going to make another little bump up here, just because I can. I got a friend whose birthday is today, so happy birthday, Carrie. I know that you're not on my channel, but happy birthday to you nonetheless. I'm glad to know you. You're a wonderfully creative human being, and it's a pleasure to get to know you and be friends and talk about cool art stuff together. There we go. Likewise, if anybody would like to see any specific types of medium, I am open to suggestions. So if you want to see like, a watercolor series or an acrylic series, I'm not really going to try to do an oil painting series, at least not now. The main reason for that is that, I live in an apartment and I don't want to smell the chemicals all the time. Oil's great if you have a separate space from where you live, but some of those chemicals, man, they're stinky, and I don't want to smell mineral spirits all the time. But at the end of the day, I'm here to serve, so I want to make sure that you're happy. So there we go. So there it is, guys. We did some fun one-point perspective drawing. We were able to do all kinds of things. You can, I was doing, all right, Courtney wants watercolor. All right, man, I'll definitely do some watercolor. Oh, you know what? I was doing all outside work. Let me just show you some fun inside tricks too. So you can start to go inside the objects that you define and start taking things out objectively. Now you can start to look through the object. I need my longer ruler for that. So I would get the big one and the little one. Little one's better for tight areas. Big one's better for long areas. So this way I can create some optical illusions like that. You know, if I wanted to you know, continue bringing this forward, I can do that as well. Or if I wanted to, boom. Boom. Start taking away from this object. There we go. Yeah. You know, Courtney, I could probably do like a whole month on watercolor, maybe 2 whole months. And I thought about how I might do that. My main challenge is I want to make sure that, you know, with watercolor, you can't work vertically like this. When you work vertically like this, you know, wet media has a tendency to obey gravity a little bit more. So you want to be able to, especially with watercolor, get a flat surface. And I don't exactly know how my capabilities are going to be to do that, but I don't know. I mean, I'm open to it. I'm gonna have to like take my iPhone and stream from my iPhone. There you go. I'm just gonna get my shadows to align. Now, the other thing is, what I like about these charcoal pencils, I'm able to control my pressure a lot with them. I've got some nice consistency here with my pressure. I haven't even gotten into shading. Golly, man, you know, when I started this, I was worried that I wasn't going to have a lot to talk about. But really, there's just so much to art. There's so many things that I've learned. I had a conversation with a friend of mine who is a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And if you train where I train, you're more than welcome to hop on our 6 a.m. classes and watch the two of us, you know, fart around. Really, he beats me up, and I, you know, and provide color commentary like, ooh, ah, tap, 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 tap. And then I ask, you know, questions. But we were talking about the process of mastery and conscious mastery versus unconscious mastery. And sometimes you get to a point in your, and this is not, I'm not trying to toot my own horn, right? But sometimes you get to a point in what you're doing where you really forget. Yep, you know it. You know exactly what I'm talking about, Courtney. You got it. Where you get to a point where you don't remember what you already know. And so I'm getting a notice that my Instagram feed is about to terminate. I've got about 1.5 minutes left. So thank you guys so much for coming to my class today. Thank you for learning about 1-point perspective. Next class, I'll be going over 2-point perspective. Basically, I've got a nice big pad of drawing paper and some charcoal pencils. We'll go into doing 2-point perspective and how to build objects from there. You know, we'll do the similar kind of exercises from below the horizon line, at the horizon line, and above the horizon line. But you know, 2-point's a little bit more fun because you can scale how near and how far your different points are to each other. So I'm excited about that. As always, let me hear from you. I want to know what you're experiencing in your art. I'd love for you to share your art with me. So you know, if you want to get some critiques or some feedback, on what you're doing, how you can maybe be doing things a little bit better, great. I'm more than happy for you to shoot me a DM or let me know otherwise. So thank you guys so much for your participation. It really is a joy to spend my Tuesdays and Thursday nights sharing with you my love of art, and I hope that you're getting some good value out of this. So have a great day and or a good evening, what's left of it. Happy social distancing, and I will see you guys real soon. Okay, take care, y'all.